Because something I noticed in my life is it really mattered what people thought of me.
Yeah.
And that was really my biggest fear in life. My biggest hang up is that, man, I was always afraid that nobody was going to like me, that I wasn't going to fit in, that I wasn't going to be accepted.
Hey, Revo students, what's going on? Welcome to our YouTube. I'm Jamie. I'm one of the student pastors. I'm at the North Campus, and I'm joined by my left by a guy who needs no introduction. But
No, I don't know about that.
But will receive one anyways. He's the man, he's the myth, he's the Michael.
Nah, yeah, I'm Michael. I'm also one of the student pastors here at Revo. Man, Jamie and I have been working together for like 4 years now. Love this guy.
Long time.
And man, so we're excited about today. Yeah, thanks for having me and excited about what's going on.
So you clicked on this video,
Yes.
so you probably know what it is. But
Maybe.
let's say you clicked and you had no idea. You were just surfing through YouTube and somehow our video popped up. Welcome. This is a series we're doing called Stories, where at each section we're going to look at somebody else's story and see, hey, how did they find Jesus? Because here's what I know is true about stories. I know that people can debate you about the Bible. People can debate you about your life. They can debate you about circumstances, but you know what they can't debate you on? Your story.
Stories.
Because
Yeah.
it's your story.
Yeah.
And so in this series, we're talking all about stories, about how we found Jesus. And so, yeah, Michael, let's kick it off.
Shoot.
What was your life like before you met Jesus?
Man, so I will go all the way back because I think it just gives some good context. So, I was born into a home with an older sister and two parents who
Shout out Grace.
Shout out my sister Grace on staff at Revo, North Campus. So one of your people. And yeah, so I was born into a home that very much loved and followed Jesus. Were they perfect at all times? No, absolutely not. Nobody is, right? That'd be cool, but it just doesn't happen that way. And so born into a Christian home, and when I was very little, we moved down to the good old Sunshine State, the state of Florida. Shout out any Florida peeps who might be watching along with
Your
this.
Flow Riders.
Flow Riders is what it is.
And
That's what they
Flow
say.
Rider.
Absolutely. So, grew up my whole life in the same house, in the same neighborhood, on the same street in the state of Florida. And man, like from a very young age, I always remember being plugged into church. Like anytime the doors were open, whether it was Sunday morning service, whether it was Wednesday night kids ministry or student ministry, if there was events going on, like it didn't matter. If the church doors were open, there was a really good chance that myself and my family was going to be there. And so growing up in that, right, like you kind of just become encapsulated in it. It's all you know. It's all you really think about. You're kind of always in it. And so you take it for granted, very much so. And so I remember at a very young age, I began to realize that I could, quote unquote, like succeed in church. And what I mean by that is like I could memorize Bible verses and get candy. Dude,
He's
that
smart.
was awesome, and I was good at playing the system. Like I knew how to ask questions in children's church or in youth ministry growing up. And so I kind of really quickly, really early on, began to learn how to play the game of church, right? Because something I noticed in my life is it really mattered what people thought of me.
Yeah.
And that was really my biggest fear in life. My biggest hang up is that, man, I was always afraid that nobody was going to like me, that I wasn't going to fit in, that I wasn't going to be accepted. And so in my circles at church, I just said, man, like this is a place where I can fit in. Like this is a place where I can be noticed and known and liked by people. And so I began to just really lean into that. But while all that's going on, while I'm living this church life and I'm even like making decisions with my life, like to trust Jesus and do all these things, it wasn't real to me because at the same exact time, I'm at church doing all these things and then I'm at school and I'm feeling the same pressure at school. It's like, man, I want to be liked. I want to be noticed. And so I did whatever it took, right?
Yeah.
I would say all the things that all the other kids say. I would act out in class. I would try to make jokes to belittle
Straight
others and
heathen.
put them down. Dude, a straight heathen, right? I was living a total double life on my sports teams. I was one way with my friends in my neighborhood. I was one way. So like I had no identity. I had nowhere I truly felt like I belonged because I was always captive by what everybody thought of me. And so that was kind of me as a kid. And then as I got older, it just ramped up more and more and more. The things I would say and watch and take place in and participate in, man, they just progressively kept snowballing.
Yeah.
And I wasn't living a life that matched up with who I said I was. At church. And man, so this just led to a lifestyle of confusion and hurt and pain. And I just didn't feel like I belonged anywhere.
So you felt like you didn't belong. You were seeking
Yeah.
belonging from everywhere. So how did you meet Jesus? What flipped that switch for you?
Yeah. So let me clarify. Actually, I said I didn't think I belonged anywhere. Well, what I kind of mean is like I kind of belonged everywhere, and that's not really what we should be, right? Like as Christ followers, we shouldn't be able to morph in wherever we're at. But with that being said, I didn't have an identity, right? So how I came to know Jesus in my high school years, like just full transparency, like I was really searching for purpose.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was searching for it in all kinds of things, but I just kept hitting dead end after dead end. And there was a time in my life, it was my sophomore year of high school. Just some life circumstances kind of came up and things were just getting hard. I was stressed out with schooling. I was trying to figure out like my future, like calling, like what did I want to do with my life? My friend group was changing in some kind of rapid ways. I went through a breakup that was really hard for me. And honestly, like all the things that I was kind of trying to put my identity in really came tumbling down on me.
Yeah.
And I fell into just some depression and some deep anxiety. And really, I was rooted a lot in fear and just not knowing what was going to be next. And I bottled it up. I really didn't tell many people about it. I was kind of trying to be a closed book in a lot of ways. And I pretended like things were all good. I was trying to be the fun guy, but deep down, I was really hurting. And I remember there was one night in particular, and this is wild. I still remember it. We were coming home from a student ministry event. So like how fitting.
Shout out students.
Shout out student ministry. Let's go. And we're coming home from this event. It was like a Halloween party. And my sister Grace just has recently started driving. And so she's driving. I'm riding in the passenger seat. And we're like, dude, let's get some food, right? Let's get some McDonald's. Let's get some McFlurries.
Cookout
Like that's what it
milkshake.
was. We don't have cookout in Florida. So there wasn't cookout. That wasn't an option. We had Sonic was the closest thing we had to cookout.
That's not the same.
Sonic's pretty good. But yeah, so we're going to get some food and we get it. We're on our way home. And dude, like it's 10 p.m. It's dark. It's late, and we're driving down the road. There's nobody on the road, like not a soul, right? And we're coming up to this intersection, and there was this car just waiting at the intersection. And as we're driving through it at 60 miles an hour, this car just kind of decides, like, hey, I'm gonna go, right? Like I'm just hey, you know what? This is as good of a time as any. Like the only time that there's a single car on the road, I'm gonna hit them. And so this car comes out and they T-bone us, and we started spinning out of control. And man, I remember, like they say, life kind of slows down in those moments. And I've always thought that was like, there's no way, right? But I just remember everything, it literally like slowed down before my eyes. And I remember just thinking about the lyrics that were on the song my sister Grace was playing. It was this Lecrae song called Go Hard.
Yeah.
And it's like an OG Lecrae, like Christian rapper, if you've ever heard of him. And the lyric, dude, it was like, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. It said, Lord, kill me if I don't teach the gospel. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, that's going through my mind. Like, I'm in this accident. Like, we walk away fine.
Wow.
Like, the car is totaled. Grace's side got hit. Like, she was okay. I was okay. And it was in that moment that I just realized, holy smokes, man, life is fragile.
Yeah.
And I was playing the game of life. Everything to me was a game. It was have fun, try to fit in, but I'm wrestling internally, and I just realized, man, like this could have been over for me. And so I go to bed that night, and I'm laying in bed, and I cannot sleep. I'm replaying the accident over and over and over again in my head, and I'm just thinking like, what could have been? I remember the next morning, I reached out to a guy in my church who played a huge role in just developing me and shepherding me as I was a hot mess. And I reached out to him. I was like, look, man, like I made a decision for Christ when I was a kid, and I've been trying to lean into that, but I haven't been living it. I was like, man, I really want to give my life to Jesus.
Yeah.
And so in that moment, we prayed, and I just confessed everything. I put it all in front of God, and I knew in that moment, like that it was going to be different.
Wow.
Like I wasn't going to just play the game of church. I wasn't just going to keep going with the flow. I was like, man, this needs to change. Otherwise, it's never going to. And so that was kind of my coming to Jesus moment. I still distinctly remember that. It's crazy.
That's wow. the fact that you were T-Bone, the fact that the
Yeah.
Lecrae song, like,
Oh,
kill
man,
me
yes,
if
wow.
I'm not preaching the gospel.
And I wasn't doing that.
And you're like, I haven't shared the gospel. Like,
I wasn't
Lord,
doing
are
that
you
at
gonna
all.
take me out?
It wasn't
And
real
then-
to me. Yeah.
And then you stepped up and realized, wait a minute, maybe this is Jesus calling me. So before you met Jesus, you were searching for identity.
Yeah.
You then, through a car accident, realized, hey, like, God's calling me. So what happened after that? What did your life start to look like after you decided to
Yeah.
surrender to Jesus?
So I think you shared some of this in your story when you were talking. You talked a lot about how we often think that when Christ comes into your life, everything should magically fall into place. And that's not always the case, right? However, there needs to be evidence of it.
Yeah.
And so right away, I began going through a lot of dilemmas in my life, right? Like I was like, all right, well, I'm hanging with these people and they're not really leading me down a good path. So I probably should think about evaluating those friendships. And at the time I was trying to pursue what I wanted to do with my life. And I was thinking about going to University of Florida. Shout out Gators. Y'all are terrible now, but shout out. Chomp, 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 chomp. And I just wanted to go get a
Roll
degree
Tide.
that would make me, that is what the Gators say is Roll Tide, yeah. I wanted to just get a degree that would make me the most money possible.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the mindset I was in. Like, we grew up with enough as kids, but like, I wanted a lavish lifestyle. I was like, man, God, like, I want to live like I see people live on TV.
On Tesla.
Yeah, we didn't have Teslas back then, but I probably would have wanted one had they
Yeah,
existed. And so, man, I was like, my priorities were all out of whack. My career was for me. The relationships I was seeking were for me. And so I started to realize like there had to be a give and take. I needed to start eliminating some of the things I was watching and listening to, the people I was hanging with, the things I prioritized. And so like over time, those things did begin to change. And so like, you know, that's a crazy thing. And it doesn't happen by accident. Like, I think another misconception is that, man, you accept Jesus and you all of a sudden know what to do.
Yeah.
But I felt like in that moment more than ever, I needed to lean into my faith. Like I really, really needed to practice reading the Bible. Like I wasn't doing that much. And so I was like, I really need to saturate myself in God's word. I knew I needed to saturate myself in prayer. I was kind of like, at that time, halfway leaning out of youth group because up until that point, it had just kind of been a fun thing for me.
Yeah.
And then I began to realize like I need to really prioritize this because I still need to grow. And I started just prioritizing like relationships and people in my life who would actually draw me closer to God rather than further from Him. And so it was not a perfect process, and it's still ongoing today. Like I'm a youth pastor. I've been a youth pastor for 4 years. Like I've been through Bible college, all that fun stuff. But still, like there needed to be more, you know, that needed to change. And so like, I'm still at this point in my life, like I'm still growing closer to Christ. I'm still eliminating stuff that doesn't need to be in my life. I'm still convicted over sin in my life. And so it's been a process. And so I remember like, you know, God was calling me into ministry at that time as I was leaning into student ministry. My youth pastor, I'm going to shout him out, Joey. Dude, he was...
Hey, shout out Joey.
Joey Flynn was instrumental in just helping me grow my faith at that time in my life. And he started giving me responsibility in the youth group. He started letting me disciple some of the younger guys in the student ministry when I had no business doing that. But like he was like, hey, like I know you're kind of interested in this. Like here's some opportunity. And I began to fall in love with it. I began to realize that, man, God used student ministry in my life in a way to at least set a foundation. So that when something really bad happened, like I had something to fall back on.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I wanted to do the same thing for those guys I was discipling as I went through college with people I came into contact with. And then now in student ministry, man, it's such a pivotal time in people's lives. I was impacted then. You were impacted then. A lot of us were. And so that's kind of why I do what I do. That's kind of how I got to where I am today. It's not a perfect story. No one's is, but that's the point is none of us are perfect. But God came into my life. He cleaned me up through his forgiveness, through salvation in him. And in the verse that I always think about, I anchor myself on is 2 Corinthians 5:17. I share it all the time. You hear me talk about it like almost weekly, right? It's you know, now if anyone is in Christ, they're a new creation.
Yeah.
The old is dead.
Passed away.
Is gone. And the new is born. And so
preaching.
that just reminds me, you know, where I'm at in my life, where I was as a 16-year-old who gave his life to Jesus. That old Michael, he's not here anymore. He's not. And it's been a different story since Jesus has come into my life.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I love that. Here's what I love and here's what I know. There's people that are going to watch this that have the same story.
Dude, I hope so, man.
They might not have gotten in the car wreck. They might not have had the Lecrae go hard. playing,
Wild.
but they have that same story of they've been searching for identity.
Yeah.
Their entire life growing up, elementary school, middle school, maybe high school, maybe college, maybe you're an adult and you stumbled on a student ministry YouTube channel and you're sitting here saying, I'm struggling with my identity. The thing I love about your story, Michael, is you said that was me, but then I found Jesus and realized that he is my identity.
Yep.
And then you talked about how in your life, it's ups and downs, it's roller coasters. It's a big church word, sanctification.
Yeah.
And it's the process of becoming like Jesus. I think so often we think we meet Jesus and then we're going to be perfect. And then when you're not, you're like, well, did I meet Jesus? Do I need to pray again for him to save me? Maybe. No, not at all. It's a process of sanctification, of becoming more like him. And so here's what I would challenge you to do if you're watching this video. If that story impacted you, if you feel like that's your story, reach out to us. You can write it in the comments, drop it in the chat.
Yep.
You can go on our Instagram page. You can DM us.
Yeah. So we'll put our, Jamie doesn't check his socials.
Yeah, I'm a loser.
I'll still put his in there, but I'll put our Instagram and social accounts in there. Like, please reach out. We want to hear from you. We know what God can do through simply sharing a story. And yeah, man, we just want this to inspire students.
Yeah.
And encourage them. So
we just want to be there for you, to help you. And if you enjoyed this, there's more to come.
Yeah.
So you can hit that subscribe button, click the bell, just so that you can know when we upload and you can be ready to see what the Lord's going to do to change your life. But I'm Jamie.
I'm Michael.
So glad you were here with us.